Hello friends and welcome back to GameSpot's continuing coverage of the Electronic Triple 2016. We are almost done. It is day 49 of E3. We're still alive and I'm delighted to be joined by Cliff Bleszinski and Arjan Brussee
there you go.
of
Awesome.
Boss Key Studios.
Day 49.
Right?
It feels like day 49.
It's weird. You've been doing this for a long time, right?
I've been at every E3 ever.
Really?
Yeah, like when it was in Atlanta, and then when they had the weird one in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Like, it's not my first rodeo, sir.
Is it 20, I think we're on there?
22 or something.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Because I actually, my first convention, the big one was at CES back in the day,
right?
Before they started doing E3, and then E3 came about, and E3 for many years has been the Super Bowl for me. But it's a really weird year because like a lot of the big names kind of pulled out and are doing their own kind of event, and so it's kind of a transitional year. So I don't know if the E3 bubble has burst or whatnot. It's weird.
Yeah, because you guys were still involved in Judges Week, right?
Yeah.
And what I was hearing from a lot of people was like Judges Week, at least from the press side, felt way more scaled down.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, did you feel that like? Was that a worry for you at all, or was it actually kind of better in a way? Because
it's better for us because we're still happy to participate in E3 because we want to promote Lawbreakers as much as possible, and when certain large entities pull out or like Blizzard isn't even here, right? So it's like, hey, we have more opportunity for more people to have eyeballs on our game, actually have a look at it.
And we had a really cool event.
We
had this offsite event. It was like a really cool event. People just could get out and give it a lot of time, right?
I rented out this gorgeous modern house in Venice and basically had the 5v5 set up, and all the journalists came out and just messed each other up. And the thing about the game, man, is when people get hands-on with it, they see what makes it unique. They see that it's a blast. They see that it's a first-person character-based shooter, but we have our own unique take on it.
Yeah. So I remember that you had a similar sort of thing at PAX as well last year, where you were like, "Hey, this is the game we're making. We've got this place. Come over, come play it."
The thing, it's especially refreshing for Arjan and I. He worked on Killzone for years. I worked on Gears for years, and you'd always show up at E3 with your perfectly scripted demo where the tower falls, the bridge collapses, the monster goes raw, and go to logo and the crowd loses their crap, right? Those are usually held together with like duct tape and bubble gum and band-aids, right? And it's usually one of those things you spend like 3 months killing the team just to impress everybody. And now we're at the point where like, this is the game. Fire it up, play it, let us know what you think.
But then that must be a sort of another element of nerves because you're basically handing over something that isn't finished then.
And, well, that's the thing, is the game has a bit of a learning curve, where it's, we have the abilities on Q and E, we have blind firing using control, we have different mobility with shift, with different types of double jumps and things like that. There is a little bit of a learning curve. So the more of a learning curve there is, though, the more depth there is. So for the first play session and a half or so, people kind of fumble a little bit.
Right.
By the time they start getting, their legs in the game, it winds up being like second nature, and people wind up really learning how to play the different type of classes we have in the game.
So I guess the people we're talking to are people who won't be able to get a chance to get hands on themselves. So what is it that feels different about Lawbreakers?
Well, so first and foremost, it's the tone. There's this thing that happens in a post-League of Legends world where a lot of these games, MOBAs and some of these character shooters, they look like bubblegummy, they look kind of candy-like, and it's totally cool, and I like a lot of those games, but it's not the kind of game I want to make. We want to make something that's a little bit more Quentin Tarantino-esque, with assassins and ex-cons and DEA agents, and actually have, oh my god, a little bit of blood in the game, and then as well as that, also have the idea of playing with gravity. And there's so many things that have happened throughout my life that have led to this moment, from taking a zero-G flight to reading the Leviathan Wakes. The idea of like, what happens if you have a low-gravity or zero-G environment and you fire a weapon?
Right.
Well, you go the opposite direction. So imagine you can kind of steer yourself through gravity zones by firing your rocket launcher or your kind of sci-fi assault rifle.
Right.
What happens if you fire it behind you and you're trying to take the objective and get to your base? Well, occasionally, once in a blue moon, you might actually get a blind fire kill, at which point you feel like Ash versus Evil Dead, and you're like, ooh, that was good. And so what we're going for is a game that has lots of verbs, that leads to lots of moments, infinite watchability, and game types that really build to kind of a climax. So it's not just like your traditional dominations, as we're showing Turf War here at E3 in our Santa Monica map, where it's like, you capture a point and you're like, okay, I'm just going to look at my watch or my phone now and wait for, us to accrue points. Once you have a point, the point closes, go to the next point. Once all 3 points are captured, 30 seconds of team deathmatch, repeat.
Okay. But
you can tell I've said that before.
Yeah, and I guess an interesting thing about it, and apologies in advance for making the references to other games, but a lot of other games are sticking to very traditional modes. You guys are actually tearing up.
Well, it actually bugs me because I've ranted on social media about this. It's like, when you spend time putting features in your game you think you need because other games have them, you're making the same thing other games have, and you're making the same crap. And so, you look at how a mobile works, like that game type's a collection of very unique things coming together as kind of like RTS elements. People didn't know that before. Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Go, it's one of the most airtight, unique game types. The whole bomb game type with point A and point B did not exist before Counter-Strike made it. Gamers are smart, they will learn, and if they don't learn, somebody out there who's ambitious will stream it or put it on YouTube.
Right.
Or make a FAQ or put it on Reddit, right?
Yeah. The anti-grav stuff is really interesting because, I mean, what you're basically essentially doing is sort of like re-teaching people, because like, we're used to anti-grav. I mean, Morpheus in Unreal Tournament, like, we're used to anti-grav.
You're showing your age with that.
I know, yeah. You should have heard what David Cage yesterday when I had a conversation about bloody Omicron, the Nomad Soul.
Oh, too soon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, true, actually. We talked about that. It was very sweet. But yeah, sorry. Anti-grav levels, we're sort of used to that. So what you're essentially doing is usurping what people think about those.
The big thing, man, to remember is, we're a little bit older, right? The younger generation doesn't remember Ziggurat, Vertigo, and Morpheus.
Right.
Because you have your average Call of Duty kid who's like 16, 17, and Call of Duty's great. They're doing some space levels now and whatnot. And, we can take what was in the past and reintroduce it kind of like with a new twist, and it seems fresh to everybody. The latest Call of Duties, it's like it's got double jump and wall running. It's like, dude, what is this, like 2004?
Yeah.
So these features seem new, and so time is a flat circle. It's like fashion. I'm out shopping with my wife and I see like young women wearing these like high-waisted acid wash jeans. I'm like, am I in high school again?
Right.
Like flannel's back? What the hell's going on? Everything is cyclical.
Yeah, history repeating. I mean, you look at games like Overwatch and it's like, oh, Action Quake. Okay, all right.
You can't stop looking at the B-roll, can you?
Yeah, right, I know.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point, is like, we made a game that I believe is very watchable.
Right.
Like
how important is that? Like in 2016?
It's infinitely important. And the number one question I'm always asked by every journalist is this game going to be an esport?
Yeah.
And it's like, I would love for nothing more than for people to fight for millions of dollars in this game. But you can't force it. What you can do is start with a game that's watchable, that creates animated GIFs, YouTube moments, blind fire kill highlight reels, and drama modes. And then, hopefully the sweaty palms will come out of that and maybe eventually make the leap.
Right.
But,
I think what's cool, what's happening is that, we've been playing the game all along, right? We're playing it multiple times a day, and every time still we have matches that end on like this crescendo, and there's a point that goes back and forth. It's crazy, and there's a lot of hollering, etc. And we even see that here, right? People play the game for the first time, and it ends in this massive excitement. People like screaming and all that. I'm like, wow, that's cool, right? I've not seen that a lot in my previous games for a long time. So that's like this excitement. Hopefully that radiates out when people start streaming this stuff, right? And playing it themselves, by themselves on the couch.
Yeah, we've been in development for a while, and one of the things we've learned that the phrase Arjan likes to use is to make the devs eat their own dog food.
Right.
And every day we're playing the game, and if I come to work and the game is broken and we can't play the game that day, he and I get very upset.
Right.
And it's like we need to continue to play the game every day and fine-tune it. And we're going to do our best job of balancing the game internally, but that we're only 65 people.
Yeah.
When we open the game up to 65,000, people are going to find bugs. They're going to find balance issues. They're going to find
exploits.
They're going to find parts of the map we didn't know they could even get to. And and so what we're doing with the game, going into alpha this weekend on the 18th, preloading on Steam on the 16th, is the fact of the matter is, come play the game with us for free. Get a key on Lawbreakers.com and break the game with us. We'll be online with you. I'm not going to pull punches. If I see you online, I'm going to mess you up because I can't help it. And the other thing is, people are going to get so good at the game within a few weeks that I need that brief period to feel good.
Oh yeah.
And, get my team annihilation, to get my double kills, because the young kids have really, really good reaction time. The keyboard and the mouse players are so good. You play CS:GO and they're so amazingly good at the
yeah, it's depressing.
The second they get that off, you better have that smoke. Anyway. We want to make a game that has strats, where people actually have to pay attention and kind of jockey for position and end with drama, as we've said.
So talk about that mastery then, I guess, because you're showing it to a bunch of press people who are basically having a couple of games, and they probably still are pretty shitty after 2 or 3 games. Yep. Then there's obviously the opposite end of that spectrum where you've got 65 odd people who are playing it all the time. So what is the mastery? Is it like individual characters that you're sort of getting used to? Is it just the overall?
Well, it really depends on your
game?
play style, right? I see a lot of these character-based shooters that are so rock paper scissors. That if you select your character class, these are delicious, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they're quite good. Airheads, ladies and gentlemen. You come around the corner and you select the class that you spawn with. You see the other class. It's like, I can't even engage with that class because they totally rock paper scissors me.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'm gonna go the other way.
Yeah.
In this game, no matter what class you play as, if you're good and you master that class, you can ruin the other team. And so it's one of those things. We just want everybody to have a chance, depending on their play style. If you like to be, nimble and use a grappling hook and use, melee weapons, you can play as Hellion and Kitsune. If you like rocket launchers and splash damage, you can play as Kronos and Bombshell. So it's basically play your way, and and don't force the players to select a class. There's this thing that's happened with certain games that's bleeding over in certain first-person shooters, where it's like, oh no, there's 2 medics in the server, so you can't be a medic. It's
right.
Like, you know what? Screw you. I want to be this class. Like, you can't tell me what to do. So what we have to do balance-wise is if the team decides to stack as the heavies, as Kronos and Bombshell, all rocket launchers, doubling in size and shooting lightning from their hands, we're like, okay, we have to figure out a way to balance that or allow the other team to counter that.
Right.
And this is, it's on us as game designers to figure this out, and we need, the community in the alpha to help us work through this.
So you're like taking the burden away from the players to like figure out the chess pieces in the battle. All right.
Empower the players.
Yeah.
But I think, the interesting thing is that we've been playing the game all this time, right? And then, you still see people doing this new stuff, right? So, for instance, we have this assassin class with this elastic type grappling hook that you can control, and what you can see people do is they swing around the map entirely, but then they also have double jump or shift, right, that kind of stuff, but they figured out that they can reset double jump by just grazing along geometry. So they can really swing around the entirety of the map in like a couple of grapples, still have energy left, and then kill the other team like close to their base and that kind of stuff, and you see this really cool emergent things happening. And then think, the other main thing is that we've trained people so much in the past generation of shooters on consoles that everything is horizontal, that people are only scanning left and right, and they start playing, and you see them doing that, right? They don't look up, and then they start and then at some point, like 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, it clicks, and they start moving up, and then they realize, well, actually the battles, the good battles, are probably in the air, right? So they go up, and we have all these classes that can move vertically and be effective vertically. So that's also really cool and fresh. So
it's interesting stuff. Sorry, go on.
The game all kind of shakes out to be like Kill Bill by way of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon by way of the Inception hallway fight scene by way of The Matrix. I just dropped 15 pop culture references.
Nice. Yeah.
It's just,
and airheads are delicious.
We joke it's vertical violence, right? Like, I like alliteration, but it's one of those things like when I see, the 2 characters with the swords dueling midair in 0G, or people like blind firing, through the 0G zone and stomping in, and the idea is like, I used to say, what's more important, the story of the game or the gameplay? It's the story of the gameplay. It's like being able to describe the fact that, I came in the base, I had my lightning hands, then my assassin came in and used her ultimate and messed up the whole team. We grabbed the battery, took it back with 2 seconds left, and we won. And it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And that's what, yields interesting moments. And that's what I've learned from, watching American football in particular, is the fact that, the last 4 minutes of an American football game, 3/4 of the time, it can go either way. And that's one of the things, one of the streamers I was talking to yesterday who played our game, they're like, in the battery mode, it's possible if one team wins and kicks butt for 99% of the time, the other team in the last few seconds can still grab the battery. And I'm like, you know what? That's called a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
If they pull that off, that's good. And you do not want a game type where, halfway through a 15-minute match,
it's over.
It's clearly over, because what happens then? Everyone leaves the server. You always want that chance, that slim chance that the other team could actually pull through, because that's that sense of hope. It's the old Yogi Berra saying, it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah, and that underdog victory is even more satisfying than the other one.
Exactly.
So obviously both of you have worked on some storied first-person shooter franchises. When you're tackling Lawbreakers, were you pulling inspiration from those games, from older games, or were you doing the whole, I'm actually just looking at general media and I want to create something completely new?
Yeah, I mean, I think, him having worked on Killzone and me having worked on Gears, which were great, successful, huge franchises.
I was talking more about Unreal Tournament.
Well, that too.
Gears is good too.
Well, thank you. Showing our age again. And there's a new one from Epic, looks good.
Yeah.
My whole point is, we're at this point in our careers where we've learned what works and doesn't work from prior games we've worked on.
Yeah.
And you look at a lot of these studios, and what they do is they build this mega campaign, and then they phone in the multiplayer because it's like some other contractor just does it for them. And then you're sitting here and they put it out on disc, and it's like you just made a campaign rental. People are going to buy that game, burn through it over the weekend, and trade it in because your multiplayer's light. And his old joke that Arjan was saying is like, dude, why don't you contract out the single player and focus on the multiplayer as your core? And when he was working on Battlefield at EA, it's like 75% of the budget is on this campaign, and I think a lot of that comes out of this Hollywood envy that this business has, where they're like, oh, it's so cinematic, and in Act 3, the character's gonna be like, no, as his partner dies, and everyone's gonna cry, even though your game where he killed thousands of people. And it's like, I'm kind of over that right now.
We have animated chest hair and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think also the interesting thing, and we both had it, right? So me with Killzone trying to push the PlayStation, right? Best graphical fidelity.
Right.
We run 30 frames a second because we have like twice the frame time to make the graphics look awesome, right? And then same thing with Gears. We're like, look at what the consoles can do. But now we don't have to do that, right? We don't sell anything. We don't sell engines, right? No platforms, etc. And now we're like, gameplay. So the game runs runs at like unbounded frame rate, right? You're showing it like 140 frames a second. People are like, this is so smooth, this is so nice, and like super low latency, and super fast servers, and that all kind of helps that gameplay. And then I think it still looks awesome, right? The game. So we're not making that many concessions on art, but we do make them every now and then, because here the artists are like, yeah, we want to do that. I'm like, no, because that will, they'll
But ultimately, these are your decisions to make. It's not like you've got somebody else breathing down your neck. I'm presumably
having to sell consoles, or when I was at Epic, having to sell the engine.
Right.
It's like, oh, we have this new water effect that's going to look amazing, and look at how it refracts in the walls and everything. And I'm
do a water level.
Bingo. That's exactly how it was, right? And like, this amazing fire stuff. Now I need a guy with a flamethrower. Great. And so now with this game, it's like, he's turned me into like the biggest frame rate junkie. Like if the game drops below 100, I just want to throw my keyboard out the window. And so as a result, we've made a game where it's a 50 to 100 milliseconds can make the world of a difference.
Right.
So you need a decent rig to run it. We're going to continue to optimize. Because when you put a game out on PC, as we are, you want it to run on as many PCs as possible.
Yeah.
That's your install base. That's your potential customers. That said, I think we look great, but we also are smooth as butter. That's one of those things, like when I come into the office and I see him, taking his iPhone, using his super slow-mo, filming it, and he's like clicking in the mouse to see what the latency is between the mouse clicking and the weapons firing. Like, that's the level you need to be at, in 2016 and beyond, especially if you're eventually going to hopefully somewhere way down the line make the leap to an esport.
Right. I have to ask you as well, both of you worked on storied franchises, both of your prospective previous employers working on new versions of old games, or in your case, of completely new IPs or whatever.
Horizon was awesome.
What's it like seeing that sort of stuff?
Oh, well, the way I like to describe it is like, with Microsoft doing a Gears game, with Epic making new games, it's like, imagine splitting with an ex and it's still amicable. You're like, you know what?
Right, yeah.
This isn't working. Go on, do your thing, and then you hear they're getting like married or remarried, and you're like, you know what? That person seems nice. I hope they're not better looking than me or cooler than me.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, I saw the new Gears demo. It looked really good, looked really cool. But I told Rod Ferguson, I have notes.
Right. And what about Horizon? Like a bunch of your ex-colleagues.
Oh, so I'm Gorilla's biggest fan, right?
Yeah.
Still, right? I founded the company.
You're hanging out with him tonight.
Yeah, I'm hanging out with him tonight, right? The guy that designed all the robots, Roy. He was my first employee I ever hired back in the 90s. So
robots were awesome.
From the royalties of Jack Rabbit, right? I hired him, and I hired the tech guys and all that kind of stuff.
You were smart.
So I was just playing the game, and it looks freaking amazing, and I hope they pull off the open world and the quests and all that. But I think there's a lot more coming there that's going to be super exciting. I think it's for me it was. I think it was pitched like 2010.
Oh, really?
So the game has been in development for like six years, right? And that's just crazy, right? And sometimes you need to take that time to build like these massive new things, right? And we're trying to, by just focusing, right? We're not doing single player, we're not doing facial animations, right? We're just doing multiplayer, etc. And we can do something really fast, right? And a year after we started with like 5 people, we had the game playing. And
I'm seeing you guys at PAX and like it's there. It was like, oh, holy shit, okay.
Hashtag me with Unreal.
Right.
I think Horizon looks amazing, man. It looks like Egret versus the Zoids.
Yeah.
That's the way I like to describe the damn game.
Before I let you guys go, I need to ask as well, just because you're both like lauded designers of various first-person shooter games. Have you played, not less Overwatch, I'm actually interested, have you played Doom?
Fantastic campaign.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Do you think they intentionally scuffed the multiplayer because they had that Quake thing?
Look, man,
working?
I criticize my friends at id and Microsoft and everything because I care. I criticize Nintendo because I care. I was called Nintendo Boy as a child. My thing about the new id, and I saw this, my wife used to work at id Software. She was a build manager back in the day. It's 7 years ago. She was working on Rage when I first started seeing her and whatnot. And Rage came out, and great campaign, absolutely stunning. Like some weird, like pseudo Mad Max car racing Mario Kart multiplayer.
Yeah.
This is id Software. This is the company that fucking invented deathmatch. Like, you better deliver some awesome deathmatch. And I played the early alpha of the Doom multiplayer, and it wasn't bad. But after 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, I get the idea.
Yeah.
You can turn it into a demon. Like, no, I want to be shooting rocket launchers and people in my deathmatch and Doom, right? So the campaign had so much love in it. I think Machine Games worked on that. It's just...
It's a Critical Assembly did the multiplayer.
That's the whole thing is, and then I think it's actually acknowledged that, and they're taking it in-house. But, business-wise, I'm like, that might be too little too late, guys. Like, you should have, done that initially. And, like, again, when you're putting out a disc-based game, people just trade in games now.
Right. Right, yeah.
So by the time, the multiplayer gets, updated for them, people may have moved on to the next Call of Duty or maybe Lawbreakers or God knows what.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, man, that campaign is it's crunchy. The weapons are amazing. The levels look so good, and they did such a good job of balancing, when you're inside kind of the claustrophobic bases to kind of being on the Martian surface, the particle effects, all of it. It's just really, really good.
It's a real good time for first-person shooters, and you guys are coming out with one real soon. When can people get on the alpha for Lawbreakers?
On the 18th this weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. Where it's a closed alpha. Go to lawbreakers.com, sign up. We distributed a bunch of keys. If you see us at E3, my wife and I are handing out and as is Arjan, the little cards with the key on it. It's on Steam. Enter the code. Hop online. It's got a little bit of a learning curve. We're starting with one map, one mode, Grand View, the Grand Canyon map, as well as the Capture the Battery mode, Overcharge, and then in early July, the Promenade map and Tour 4 is coming online, and more stuff's going to keep happening until we get to the point where we flip the switch and actually say, hey, we'd like to keep the studio going if you'd like to give us a few bucks.
Right, and that'll probably be 2017, I'm guessing.
No, late 2016 is
Oh, really?
That happened. Yep.
You guys have a lot of work to
targeting
do.
a price point somewhere between $20 to $40. Haven't determined that yet. We're not going to make a multiplayer only game and ask you for $60. I think that's bullshit.
Cool beans. Cliff Bleszinski, Arjan Brussee. Pleasure to talk to you both from Busky Studios. Best of luck with the rest of it, and you can keep those airheads. You've earned them. We'll be back in just a minute, folks. We're a bit of a shift of gears here from first person to hot strategy games. We've got Halo Wars 2 coming up in a little bit, but first of all, Dawn of War 3. Back in 5 minutes.